Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle Tolsman, and you're listening to the Against All Average podcast, the show where business owners and entrepreneurs come to learn the skills and mindset to lead exceptional lives. Today, I am joined by the one and only Jake. I like dill pickle sunflower seeds on a nice spring day. Spurley. What's up, Jake?
You know what's funny, Kyle? Look what I got right here, baby. Dill pickle sunflower seeds.
Are you? Oh
yeah,
man,
dude,
I almost started swearing. Holy moly, that is nice. Is that a Plaid Pantry special?
Oh, it's actually Winco, 99 cents, cheapest spot I can get them.
Ooh, baby, those look tasty. Do you chew on the pepper ones too?
Oh, dude, I got. Oh yeah, right here. Check it out, Kyle. Cracked pepper.
Oh yeah, my goodness.
I don't know what flavors.
I don't know what our guest is going to have to say about your consumption of high sodium goods right now. He is going to light your butt up for that.
Talking about, stuff that's not good for you. I just got to ask, since we're going to be talking about, our bodies and stuff, how the heck did you get your dad bod, Kyle?
Oh man, my son is 7 years old and I just started slacking. One day turned into two and I just started slacking, but I'm getting my walks in. I'm starting to get back there into the right mindset and getting things going. But yeah, it's a day-to-day type of thing. And I think our guest today will talk a lot about accountability and coaching and how all those work together to make that dad bod go away.
One foot in front of the other, baby. Let's get this thing rolling.
All right. On the Against All Average podcast, we love our sponsors. When you need all things digital looking their best, call our friends at Fame Pro Services. Our friends will give you the above all average treatment with an awesome new website, custom graphics, social media management, and a full line of printing services. Fame, the trusted partner of the Against All Average podcast. You ready to roll, dude?
I'm a little scared I'm going to get called out for my unhealthy eating habits, but let's get this thing rolling.
Yeah, you're going to get blown up for your sodium intake. All right, here we go. Our guest today blazed the long and difficult trail from a short and skinny kid who rode the bench in every sport to an All-American Lacrosse player with opportunities to play professionally. And he earned the opportunity to compete at the California CrossFit Regionals twice with Team Paradiso CrossFit. His pain became his passion, and his struggle to improve his body comp and performance is why he started Beyond Macros. Matt realized he could relate from experience to the challenges and body image issues his clients were dealing with. That is why he set up Beyond Macros to educate clients and focus on creating sustainable transformation. He cares more about setting up a client to maintain their changes after the initial transformation, because the initial transformation is the easy part. He's a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, certified sports nutritionist, precision nutrition coach, CrossFit level 1 functional movement. And I bet he hasn't even updated the website in a while. He's probably got another 5, 10, 15, I don't know. He's got certifications up the wazoo. He's a super coach. Please welcome Matt Walrath of Beyond Macros. What's up, Matt?
What's up, brother? Thanks for having me, man. What an intro. It's like I'm sorry I didn't send you my bio, because that's like a 3-year-old intro, but it was pretty good still, I reckon.
Yeah, I know. I was just looking now. I was just like, I emailed your guys. I emailed you, 2 or 3 times trying to get that bio. So like, if you don't want to get me the bio, I just, I changed the I to he and him and Matt and Walrath, and we get this thing firing.
Yeah, nah. Working on creating a new offering for my business coaching. So I've been a bit busy. I'm sorry, Kyle.
No problem.
But no,
yeah, Matt, let's let the listeners and those folks watching on YouTube, let's let them know a little bit about you. Let's start like maybe elementary school, maybe 6th grade-ish, and through high school and college, and then we'll get more into your professional life.
Cool, man. 6th grade, I loved geography class. I remember looking at the atlases and just being like, wow, there's so much to this world. It's so cool. And then fast forward to now, and I live in Australia, not America anymore, because I traveled so darn much. So sixth grade, you picked a really good time to begin the story. That's where I really got excited about what was out there in this big wide world. Because I grew up in a town that was 1.7 square miles. So the world was pretty small at that point. And
Right.
yeah, now I've got that passion for travel. And
You're in Australia now. I'm just going to break you off right there. Do you
Yeah.
have any crazy like spider or snake stories?
and not too crazy. I've just had encounters with them. Like people might have heard of the huntsman spider. It's super big and super fast, but they're kind of cuddly in a way if you get over the fact that they're hairy fanged, 8-legged creatures. They're they're more scared of you than you are of them. They're running fast to get away from you, not to you. So I've had quite a few run-ins with them. My wife's from country South Australia, so her dad's farm, quite a few huntsmen's there. In Tasmania, I had a run-in with a juvenile eastern taipan, which has enough venom, I believe, to kill 1 million mice in one bite.
Whoa.
Yeah, especially the juvenile ones, because they don't know how to meter their venom yet. So I've had some run-ins with some of the deadlies for sure. But yeah, aside from that, went freediving the other weekend, ran into some sharks.
just so like nonchalant, casual, like there's just a couple sharks out there.
Did they leave you? Did they leave you alone, or did they try to smell you or give you a kiss? Like, what were they doing out there?
They came around for a little sniff, and then after that, they just went on their merry way. They're like, land creatures.
Right on. So let's talk a little bit about, sorry about that, getting off on a tangent. I've wanted to ask that question for like 2 days, and I just, like a little kid in a candy store, like I just couldn't contain myself. So I had to ask you that. But let's continue on. What was high school like, college like? Why did you choose to go to Chapman? And kind of take us through this journey that eventually set you up as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, man. So honestly, my entrepreneurial journey, I was just on the phone with my dad, and they bought me this book, Growing Money, when I was a kid. It's a great, if you've got kids, like, and you want them to take an interest in understanding finance basics, Growing Money, amazing kids book. And that, my dad was like, you ever, since you were a kid, became obsessed with figuring out how to turn $1 into two. It's like, it didn't matter what it was, lemonade stand, building the mini golf course in the backyard, and charging the neighbors to come play it. Like, you were always trying to figure out how to turn nothing into something or $1 into two. And that's where it really began for me. And high school, honestly, was a bit of a dark time for me. Like, Kyle, we met because of lacrosse, and lacrosse was pretty much the one thing that kept me hopeful about the future. It was definitely a dark time for me. And then once I got to college, I played 1 year at a school, Stevens Institute of Technology. I'd chosen to go to that school from being in a dark place in high school. And I realized when I got there, this isn't what I want for my life. And I ended up thinking, where would I want to go? This is a big wide world. I'm in a school in a small state where I grew up in a small town. I need to break away. And I made the choice to look at California schools, Hawaii schools, Texas schools. I was like, take lacrosse out of the equation. Where would I want to be in this country? And I just happened to visit this little university in Orange County, California called Chapman University. They had a great lacrosse team. They had a great entrepreneurship program. And I was like, you know what? I'm in. I applied, got a great scholarship. And once I moved to California, I feel like not only did things start looking up for me, but that's where I started taking my interest in fitness. And that's where I really was able to dive in and start playing around with making some real business ideas happen.
And you talk a little bit about high school being a dark place. Why was it so dark for you? What are some of the kind of things that were rubbing you the wrong way in high school that you eventually, it sounds like you found lacrosse, you found fitness, and you kind of found a home? Why was it so dark for you?
So for me, it just really came down to, I had depression, and That was an experience that I had, and I didn't really see anybody else feeling that way. It was when I lived in a place where it was like you kind of just kept your emotions to yourself. It was all right to celebrate a goal in lacrosse, but pretty much kept your emotions to yourself, especially as a boy, a man, a teen, whatever you are in that high school age.
Right.
And it just bottling that all up made it really difficult. And, I smoked a lot of weed and drank a lot and just, depressants and, just it all really, I think, messed with my mental health a bit when I was that age. And the thing is, growing up in a small town, I pretty much saw that a lot of people, a lot of people's parents grew up in that town. They went off to college, they got into the finance world, they took the boat over to Manhattan, they worked in the financial district, and they played golf at the same course that their dads played at. It was like, the path seemed so set. And there didn't seem to be much choice or free will. And I was like, wow, I'm not having the greatest time right now. If I follow that path, that's the rest of my life. And I didn't really see many alternatives. So that was what really made high school a difficult time for me, is I was really blinders on. I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. And thank you for sharing that, Matt. It's important for our listeners to understand that everybody goes through different phases in their life. Sometimes it's all happy, and sometimes you have to work through some dark places. It sounds like Chapman was an opportunity for you to, I don't know, almost become yourself, this version of yourself. Talk a little bit about when you started to figure out fitness, when you started to figure out, well, if I'm stronger, if I'm faster, if I'm more explosive, then I can dominate on the lacrosse field. Was that kind of how everything worked?
The seeds for that were actually set when I was at Stevens Tech. We had this great strength and conditioning coach. His name was Roger Power. And I think he actually changed his last name legally to Power. And he would, you'd be doing a power clean or you'd be doing like a lift. And if it was a good lift, he'd be like, yeah, that's power. And it was, but as cheesy as that was, he was a really good guy. And if you went to him, and, I went to him as a freshman, as a rookie, I was like, listen, man, I want to get on the field. What can I do to be more athletic? And he helped me, drop a little bit of weight, because leading into my freshman year, the head coach was like, you're not going to see the field if you're not over 200 pounds. So I was like, all right, I got up to 210, but my asset's always been my speed. So I rocked up, 210, 20 pounds heavier than I was at the end of the prior season.
And Jake, don't get Matt wrong. He's not talking dad bod 210, buddy. He's not talking dad bod 210. He's talking about a loving, probably 15% body fat 210, huh?
I was getting so hopeful for a second.
Yeah, it still slowed me down though. So, I went into the strength and conditioning coach, and I was just like, hey man, what can I do to get my speed back? And I thought that he was going to just get me doing power cleans and sprints and all, sled drags. And he did. He set me up with all that. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting programming that he's doing. But he also tuned me into some dietary changes that I can make based off of what was available to me on my meal plan in the cafeteria there. And that was the first time I actually thought about nutrition outside of this very narrow-minded, if you eat more, you get big. If you eat less, you get little. And those really planted the seeds for me with my interest in fitness and the amazing thing that is the human body. And then once I got to Chapman, that's when I had the opportunity to start studying a little bit deeper into Eastern philosophies on health and healing. There were some really cool courses, pretty much took a minor in it, in complementary alternative medicine. And I also got to major in business, and we had some amazing entrepreneurial minds as professors at that school. So just really, that's when I look at the influence of where I'm at now, being a business coach for nutrition coaches, that's where it really started.
So let's talk about kind of where you're at now. For the people that don't know, you started Beyond Macros. What is Beyond Macros truly deep to its core? I know you do some coaching, some nutritional stuff. Let's kind of get into that.
Yeah, man. So I started Beyond Macros in 2015, end of 2015, because my personal nutrition coaching business had a wait list. I had more leads than I could possibly take on as clients. And the thing is, I was like, oh, I'll create a wait list. But people, when they're motivated to make a change, they're not going to wait around for you to finish up with your clients next month. They're going to go find another coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, instead of leaking these leads and not being able to serve these people, how about I hire and train some other coaches to start taking on some of the potential clients that we have. So I did. Found 2 awesome coaches, trained them up, taught them how to do what I was doing, and then they started coaching some of the clients that wanted help from me in my business. And that eventually grew to the point where we had 6 coaches, support staff of 4 between admin and marketing. It was a pretty decent sized company. And the concept, like Beyond Macros, for people who don't know, macros, if you look on your nutrition label, the macronutrients, fat, protein, carbohydrate. So if you control the quantity of food you're eating by looking at those macronutrients, it's a really effective way to change your body composition. But the thing is, as a 3-dimensional human being, as somebody who's got family considerations, dad bod, as somebody who's got work considerations, as somebody who's got all of these other things in their life that they're working towards outside of the fitness realm, I recognized, and I went back to my roots with Eastern philosophy and of healing. And it's like, it's not just the individual that you're working with, but then you need to look at the context in which the individual is, like their family context, their work context, their like country, culture. You got to look at the health of the whole world in which they live in. And so I started looking into more of those external factors outside of just like the straight macronutrients, meal plans, things like that, and started seeing a lot more success with the coaching that we were doing. So brought that to the marketplace.
So it seems like you're going good. Things are going great. A lot of people, and your business is online, correct?
Correct.
100% online. A lot of businesses struggle with having online presence. Can you talk to the point of what's the toughest part about having an online business? What are some key things you did to really explode your online business?
Yeah. So for me, it really came down to, I started by leveraging my in-person network. I think a lot of people struggle when they go online, and it's like they're looking at a computer screen and they're like, where are my clients in this computer? And it's like in Zoolander, it's like the files are in the computer. It's like the clients are in the computer, man. Like, where are they? I get that imagery coming up, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges people have online. But when you're actually going out into your in-person network, it's a lot easier to see where those people you want to work with are. And so for me, I just leveraged this kind of like local celebrity status that I had at the gym that I was coaching at. And I use that to build more and more trust with people that, hey, Matt's the nutrition expert. Like if I have a nutrition question, I go to Matt. If I want help with nutrition, I'm hiring Matt. And I really leverage that in person. And the cool thing is I would run workshops, we'd film them, we'd put them online, and people outside the gym would see them. Go figure. And by building my business in person as well, I actually had income coming in so that I could start investing in some things with the online. I didn't really get into advertising that early, but I had enough money where if I wanted to get into advertising, I could. If I wanted to get into hiring an agency to help me out with marketing, I could. But for me, I just hired coaches who helped me learn how to do digital marketing better. My first big wins were in the search engine optimization world. And now, I teach, because Beyond Macros has morphed from just coaching clients to now I coach coaches. Like I teach nutrition coaches how to build their business. And so right now the real opportunity is social media. So, I'm teaching them how to leverage the in-person like I did, and then use that to build up their star power, their influencer status on social media in order to actually like build their businesses. So yeah. Did that answer your question?
Great. No, yeah, it was great.
Cool.
Something I kind of had here is a lot of times some of our listeners either A, do not have a business, or B, they're kind of getting their feet wet a little bit. What are your go-to software programs right now that you're always using that you just could not live without?
I think a lot of people get hung up on the software. For me, I'm always like, keep it simple, stupid. I had somebody who asked yesterday, they're like, oh, I got this idea for a course. What course software should I use? And I was like, Google Drive, take the Google Drive links and email it to people. I was like, until you have validated that that course is going to be profitable, useful, people are actually going to want it. Like, don't spend the $150 per month on Kajabi or the 100 on, Thinkific or whatever those softwares happen to be. For me, it's like, keep it as simple as possible. Even when I started Beyond Macros, it's like we were a 6-figure company using Google Sheets and MyFitnessPal as our primary softwares for check-ins with clients. So for me, I'm like, don't overcomplicate it. Think about what you need to deliver and what's the simplest way that you can do it. And if you're just starting out, what's the cheapest, simplest? I don't want to say free, because a lot of times free means you're going to have to jump through a bunch of hoops and figure out how to make it work for you. Sometimes it's like, all right, what's cheap? What's like $5 but provides the right solution? Like $5 a month.
Yeah, it's so important. Yeah. I think, I run a lacrosse company, and it's sort of like what you did, as far as you were in person, you were training clients, you were doing that type of thing. And then you brought some of those folks online, but you're completely right. Like, I can record a video off my video camera and I can host it in the Google Drive. If I don't have enough space, guess what? I just create another Google account with a star at the end. And if that one gets full, I've got 2 stars at the end. It's just like, and you want it to look a little bit more professional, upload it to Vimeo or YouTube and make the video private. And then, like you said, Matt, all you got to do is hit your list, right? Put the links in your email, and there you go. Interact from there. It might not be the easiest long-term solution, but you're completely right. What a great way to vet an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's super important, is, like you said, vet the idea first. You can make it pretty later.
Right. So we talked kind of about your network and how you leverage your network originally in the gym. And that's kind of how the online presence started. Some people are scared. We talked about this in a previous episode, but I think it's important to frequently talk about how important is your network to you, and kind of how do people get outside of their comfort zone to expand their network?
It's a great set of questions right there. So for me, the network is everything, because like most of the great opportunities that I've had that have leveled my business up just came from my network. Like with Beyond Macros, one of our first big breakthroughs happened because there was a podcast that was the most popular podcast in the CrossFit world at the time. And one of my clients had done like the intro credits for them. And one day they were like, hey, dude, Joshy, we had our guest for this week canceled. Do you know anybody who can do it on short notice? And he was like, yeah, my nutrition coach, Matt, lives in town where you're recording. He'd be happy to do it. And he hits me up. He was like, hey man, I just booked you in for a podcast. You available at 6? And I was like, sure can be.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be
there. My
there.
girlfriend at the time, the date night was canceled. Yeah. But yeah, I got onto that podcast, and it ended up being, they told me it was like one of their top 10 podcasts for years. Ooh. And that podcast, I think the following on my company Instagram account, which was, I think at like 1,000 followers, went to like 2,000. They had a really big reach. And that really leveled me up. And that just came from my network. That wasn't any hard work of my own. It's like all of the hard work I had done up to that point to build the network, to serve my clients, to establish my reputation. It came to this point where now the opportunity was there, which is, to me, the definition of luck, hard work meeting opportunity. But yeah, the network's so important.
Yeah. And Matt, Jake and I talk about that. We could probably pull up the last, 5 episodes where we're always talking about those who are prepared get lucky, and those who are in that daily grind, and they're doing what they say that they're going to do, and they're doing a great job, and they're making sure that they're fulfilling their promises, and they're making their promises and fulfilling them and over again. And you just put yourself out there enough and stay prepared that this quote unquote lucky opportunity arose for you, but really it wasn't that lucky. Like, you were prepared. You did a great job, just like you're doing on this podcast. I'm sure you gave value to the listeners. And so I think that's so important for our listeners to know, is that you can't just walk on stage, or you can't just teach a program. You have to start going through the steps and immersing yourself in whatever culture that it may be, whether it's the CrossFit world, the nutrition world, whether you're a business coach, whether it's mindset. You have to actively be immersed in those situations, and then people start to know you. Little by little, you get on a small podcast, bigger podcast, and then your audience starts blowing up. Once your audience starts blowing up, then cash flow can come through. So I think that's an awesome one that we always come back to, is you must be prepared for the opportunities that you don't know about.
Yeah, no doubt, because I got lucky. I got straight onto one of the biggest podcasts in the industry, which meant that I then trickled down. I had other people reaching out. Hey, I see that you're in Venice Beach. My gym's in, Hermosa Beach, 30 minutes away. Would you mind doing a workshop or a talk on that topic to my members? I had so many smaller but still lucrative opportunities come out of that.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's just kind of just putting yourself out there, there, and people start to find you and actually start to you start to get known for stuff, right? Are you well known for your nutrition mindset, or the Eastern medicine with the nutrition mindset?
People definitely started to associate my name and brand with, beyond macros. It's like people really started to associate it with the sustainable transformation. And I had a podcast for a while, and I've had people tell me, man, 2 words are burned into my mind from following you for so long, and it's the importance of inner work. So for me, that mindset, that inner work, that's been a big part of what people have come to know me for. So even now, when I was nutrition coaching, people knew there was an inner work component to what we were doing. And now that I'm business coaching, people know that it goes beyond lead generation, it goes beyond sales. I'm going to be going into the mindset and the inner work of what it is to be a business owner and a world-class coach.
Yeah, it's so important, right? You can't just teach somebody how to sell without looking down deep into what their problems are with selling, what their issues are with money, what value they think that they have. There's so much. We could go on another episode, I'm sure, about all those different mindset hacks and topics and everything like that. You've been talking a lot about when things are good. Talk about some of your struggles growing beyond macros. What are some of the not necessarily like huge slumps or anything like that, but what are some of the difficulties getting past certain points in your business?
Yeah, I think a lot of it did come down to mindset, because I had gotten to this point where my business was making a really healthy 6-figure revenue per year. We were profitable. I was making a really healthy income because of it. And I was like, I don't want to grow this business because that means more responsibility. I'm not working that much. I'm making a lot of money and I can travel right now. So everything feels good. I became the bottleneck in my business. I became a massive bottleneck. And I also had this false dichotomy in my head that business growth equals less freedom, which I now know is a total misnomer, because my business is over 5 times as big now as it was then. And I am less busy because I was able to become a better leader. At that time, I really wanted to, be off doing whatever I was doing. I wanted to hire people to do their job, but I didn't want to necessarily have to lead them. I wanted to just be like, why can't you do your job? Without actually being a good leader, a good commander, and being like, hey, here is the vision that we have. Here is where you fit into this. Here is the upward mobility that you can have within this organization. Here's the importance, and constantly communicating all of that to them. I wasn't doing it. I was just expecting, well, I hired you to do this. Why aren't you doing it? I was a really bad leader at that point. And I wasn't really leading by example very well either. So that was my biggest challenge.
And Matt, let me stop you right there. Jake was talking about that on an earlier episode. He used to run a food cart called Sausage King, where he was slinging all sorts of different hot dogs, sausages, etc. And he was saying the same thing. Like, he was just the worst leader. Like, looking back now, he was just the absolute worst leader to his employees. And I think so often you're talking about kind of that mindset, like, hey, I was the bottleneck. My personal thought was that the bigger the business, the less freedom I'll have. And then I can't go swim with sharks. I can't go chase spiders out in the fields. Like, I can't do all that cool shit, you know? And so I think we're all in that position. And I think there's so many business leaders, especially the small restaurant owner or food truck operator, whatever it means. I can't get bigger. What if I have 2 employees? Then I'm going to have to figure out payroll. Then I'm going to have to maybe take on a bookkeeper. Then I'm going to have to do this and this and this. And what you found is you're 5 times bigger and you're less busy. How did you create that? What are some of the systems you have in place so that you are less busy, so that you get a ride on the back of sharks and start a spider zoo in Australia?
For me, I couldn't do it without my team. And when it comes down to it, it's like I've really taken a look at what are the needs within the business, where is my own genius zone, and where am I excellent? So my goal is to eventually hire people for my excellent things so that they can do it and I can lead them, so that I can stay and really operate within my genius. So right now it's like I've got a sales team, I've got a client success team, I'm pretty much doing all the marketing, but I've hired some people to provide some support. And I'm pretty much doing all the operations, but I've hired some people to support. So for me, most of my time is spent in marketing and operations because I don't have, let's say, my executive team in place there. I just have people who can support me as the decision maker. And the main thing for me as a business owner is I want to hire leaders within my organization who are essentially like entrepreneurs. And I also need them to be a very good decision maker, because for me, if I have to make every sales decision, if I have to make every marketing decision, if I have to make every client success and coaching decision, if I have to make every decision on the operational side of the business, then I'm tapped out. I'm going to be so much inside my business. I'm not in my genius zone. There's nothing unique about us. I'm going to be burnt out. I'm going to hate my business. So for me, it's really become finding the system for, okay, what's the thing I want to do the least, even if I'm good at it? Or what's the thing that's taking the most time, the most energy from me? And I'm just going to hire out for those things. And I'm going to hire someone who freaking loves doing that stuff and is great at doing that stuff. And then I'm going to take the time as a leader to meet with them. I've got sales team meetings every week that are scheduled and recurring. I've got client success meetings every week that are scheduled and recurring. And then I just pour into them. I mentor them. I make sure that they have everything they need to do their job, and I trust them. I've got a really high degree of trust in them, and they see that because I don't try to micromanage them. I let them make their own decisions. And I think that's been the biggest thing is when I first started hiring people, I would micromanage. I would put out fires that they could put out, because then they'd learn how to put the fire out next time. But I'd be like, oh, I'll just do it. And then I'll tell you how I did it. And then you can do it next time. Right. And my old leadership style was awful because I was like, hands off, way too hands on, hands off, way too hands on, like back and forth oscillating. And it was probably so frustrating and confusing for everybody that worked for me. And now it's like, okay, here is me. I'm here to support you. You make the decisions. I don't need to make the decisions. Like if it's something that might kill the business, if you make the wrong decision, sure, consult me, but like it's still your decision. Just changing up my leadership style has been massive.
How did you get to that mindset? Because it seems like there was like a flip. Like did an event occur? Because I know for me, kind of a couple events occurred. And I like looked in the mirror. I was like, oh, whoa, I'm the problem here. Like, how did you change that mindset? Was there something specific?
I've done a lot of personal development work, and I always take ownership for things, and I like to reflect. And there was just a period with the online coaching business, because I brought the business coaching in April of last year, April of 2019. And there was a period where I was running, or I had started building a team for that, and I was running 2 different teams. And it was just such an obvious, like, wow, the way that I am with this team versus this team is so different. And being able to see that side by side, that comparison, that's what allows me to speak about the difference today, is that they were both happening simultaneously. It's like I was a split personality. But yeah, I feel like until I was able to really reflect on that, take ownership, and just see that reflected back at me, that's what the switch was. I was like, I'm going to learn from my mistakes. I'm going to do a lot better this time.
I think a lot of people really, really struggle with not giving away, freedom's not the correct term, but they're kind of scared of giving up, quote, control. I know it's definitely something I've had struggled with. What are kind of some tangible things people can start to do to make those changes inside their business, of giving more control to their employees, empowering them to do things?
Yeah, I think it's just a trust building process, man. I just started watching The Last Dance, that Michael Jordan doco, or the Bulls doco.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's really good. And I just think to that point, in their first championship run in '91, where Phil Jackson's like, dude, Michael, just Paxton's open. Dish the ball off to him. And he does it, and Paxton's hitting hitting threes like it's nothing. And all of a sudden you can tell that's the point where Michael Jordan's like, wow, I can rely on other people. And you kind of have to have that own moment for yourself where you actually should set the person up to win. So if you hire somebody, don't give them the hardest freaking task ever to begin with and be like, all right, if you screw up, you're fired. Or you screw up, I can't trust you, and I'm going to micromanage everything you do for the rest of your employee with me.
And sign this month-to-month contract where I can fire you at any time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you got to actually put some trust in them initially, and then give them something to do where they can win, and they can start to build that trust. You can see, okay, this person's competent, and you can scale up the level of work that you're giving to them. Like I just hired some new salespeople, and in the past I had thrown the salespeople to the wolves. But now I'm like, all right, there's probably 5 different sales activities that my salespeople end up doing. I was like, this is week 1. We're going to start you with the one probably easiest and lowest risk task that you'll be doing moving forward. Let's see how you do with it. If you do all right, then we'll move on. We'll start putting more on your plate. And so by bringing people in and scaling them up to that bigger picture, I think I can already see that that's a lot more effective than just like, all right, welcome to the team.
Figure it out, sink or swim.
Yeah, exactly. The apply on the fly approach. It's like there's a little bit of that, but what I've done is lower risk and at least gives them the opportunity to win and feel good about their output and contribution to the team.
Yeah, I think it's so important to get that feeling, right? Like I think in business as owners, we need the little wins, right? Like we need to achieve those small goals. We need to say, hey, like I've been working my tail off. I'm not very good at this, but I've been working my tail off. And it seems like you're starting to create a culture within your business that's almost like a sports culture where, hey, we just need to win one of these 3 games, right? The coach's mindset. If we win one of these 3 games, then they're going to be so much better in practice the next week. Do you kind of bring what you've learned on the sports field? And you've coached a bit. We used to coach camps together. We both played at a high level for a long time. And it seems like you're starting to get back into some of the basics of sports psychology and sports culture. Talk about that a little bit. And what have you brought from sports into your business to help you succeed?
Yeah, it's a good question. One of the things that I've been reflecting on a lot lately is the way that I was a leader in sports and how I wish I had improved that, but what was also good about it. And so for me in sports as a leader, I was always like a young captain on the team because I was just like, head down, do the fundamentals, like, you know, win every sprint, win every ground ball. Just, you know, I was a workhorse, and I could be a role model for other guys. And that's always how I liked to lead, was just like, do the work that needs to be done and then some, be a good role model. And there's definitely something to that. And now it's like, I am always in full integrity within my business. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I act from my values, and my employees can see that. They can see me as a good role model, like the vision I have for the business, as well as essentially like the movement that they know that they're a part of. It's like they see that I'm not just saying that, my actions reflected as well. And so that's something that I've brought from my sports days into my current business and leadership style. However, I look back at how I was as a captain in those days, and I think because I was often captain by like my junior year, sometimes as early as my sophomore year, I think at one point, it was just like I was young. So there was older guys. There was like juniors, seniors on the team, older dudes who had been on the team longer. And so it felt initially, when I stepped into that leadership role, like they were the vocal ones, because they always were. And so I just was the role model. You know, I wasn't very vocal. I was always nice to everybody, but I wasn't. And I think about this now, the difference between being nice and being kind. And the difference between being nice and being kind is that nice, it's like, I might, if you come to me over and over and over again with a problem, Tulsi, you're just like, oh man, my employees suck. They're so shitty. And then, you know, next day, same thing. The nice thing is like, oh, Kyle, like, I'm so sorry that that's happening with your employees. Like, oh, woe is you. That might be nice, but that's not kind. The kind thing is to be like, yo, Kyle, wake up. Do you recognize that you're coming to me with that every single day? Have you thought about your role in that issue? You know, that's the kind thing to do, is to break your pattern. Obviously, I want to probably ask your permission to share my reflections and be a bit nicer about it. But so we need to entertain the people.
Yeah,
but,
excuse me, Kyle, can I talk a little trash right now? Do I have your open obligations and permission to talk absolute madness to you right now? No, but like, you're right on the money, Matt. Like, the difference between nice and kind, like, I think we were very similar as captains, as far as that goes. Like, I was a grinder as well, and I just led by example. I didn't try to ruffle feathers. I tried to smooth them. And that's good if you have 3 captains. That's good if you have a management team. But if you're running a business where you're kind of that sole management contact, you've got to really analyze the dichotomy between nice and kind, and know, when am I going to be nice? When am I going to be kind? And then when am I going to wake somebody the F up? You know, sometimes we both know the coach at Oregon, and he coaches at Westminster now. He just, like, every 2 weeks, he's going to light us up for something. Like, and it wasn't that he was mad. You know, once I started coaching with him, I started to understand it. You see that? Like, you see that they're slipping. They're not understanding that every little thing turns into something bigger. They don't understand that doing reps like this is going to lead like that. And the same thing happens in business when your sales team starts slipping and they only sell for the money, and they don't think about the clients and their clients' path and their, in your terms, their culture, where they come from, what their lifestyle is like, how they're going to get the program mixed into their life and be successful. So I love that point about nice and kind. I haven't heard anybody say it that way, but like, kind is, got to hold some people accountable for their actions. If I'm just like, man, every single day I'm so tired, and like every single day I eat McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just like, holy shit, wake up, Kyle. Like, you're doing this to yourself. Like, I'm here to support you, but like, if you keep eating like crap, you're going to be tired. And don't talk to me again about that same problem. Let's move on to something else.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I think it's so important. That's one of the biggest things that I've changed. I look back and I always, because there was always kind of, you know, team culture things where there was some animosity between people, and felt like I needed to smooth it out and be the nice guy and all that. But it probably would have been more effective to just be like, yo, both sides, do you recognize how both of you are feeding? It's like a relationship, it's like, do you realize how you are getting mad at them for doing things that they're reacting to you being mad at them, and then they're doing the things that feed back into, it's like this cycle. Do you not see that? And to just like have sat them down and actually address things head on instead of trying to always smooth out and micromanage and smooth out those little micro conflicts. Really important. And that's something I've brought into coaching. Coaching is leadership. Being a business owner, that's leadership. And so it's something that I've brought into my leadership style, is just being a lot more kind and addressing things head on.
What kind of lead? I'm super curious here, because you and Kyle both have this like coaching mentality. I could just see you just like walking in the room and everybody's like, whoa, Matt's coming in. Like, what is your leadership style? I'm just so curious.
Yeah, man, I just lead by example. I hold a really strong vision. When people aren't performing, then I want them to think about how they can perform instead of the fact that they're not performing well. One big mistake that I made was we went through a little sales slump at one point, and I was like, all right, well, we're going through a sales slump. Like, how are we going to get out of the slump, instead of just focusing on like, all right, Kyle, what are 1 to 2 ideas you have to make this much in commissions next week, instead of focusing on the slump? It's like, what are 1 to 2 things that you're going to do next week in order to hit, your commissions or to reach a bonus or something like that. So focusing people's minds, focusing my team's minds on the vision and like the positive outcome that we want, instead of berating them for the negative, and seeing if that pulls them out. And generally it does. I'm really big. I'm kind of like a woo-woo leader in some ways, where I'm like, okay, what was your energy like the week that you performed the best as a salesperson? What did you do for yourself? Like, look, success leaves clues. So, were you doing morning affirmations? Were you on vacation when you had your best week ever? It's like, what led to that? Take a look, remind yourself, write that down. So I really like my employees to take a look at what's going on internally for them at all times, kind of keep track of that. That way they can have a record. When I am setting records, why? What's that look like? How can I replicate it moving forward?
And I think that's also kind of could be talked about with fear. Some people get in this kind of slump with, I don't know if it's fear, I had a bad week, and then they're fearful, try again or whatever. What is your relationship with fear, and kind of how do you coach, teach, and train your team about it's okay to be fearful, but you just got to go for it?
Yeah, for me, fear is one of those things where I'm comfortable stepping into it and just, I've gotten used to, I've desensitized myself to stepping out of my comfort zone. It's just one of those things where with repeated practice, I'm happy to take that step out of the comfort zone. And I want to make sure that every coach that we mentor, everybody on my team feels comfortable enough, funny enough, to step out of their comfort zone. Because I see that with repeated practice of stepping out of your comfort zone, that it expands, and that your like the chance that you're going to get derailed by fear massively decreases if you just keep stepping into it. It's like fear conditioning is what I call it, actually, to people. I'm like, have you been doing your fear conditioning?
That's awesome. Hey, I want to wrap up what you were saying right before we started talking about fear, and make sure the listeners really understand these points. What Matt was talking about from a mindset perspective, and so much of what we're talking about is mindset. And a lot of people think that like mindset is foo-foo. Like, oh, that's, yeah, like, what energy did you have? Did you get enough sleep? What'd you eat? What'd you drink? But it's mindset's everything. And what Matt was talking about is, one, solutions based. Okay, we're not going to analyze the problem over and over again. Please tell me, what is your solution to the sales slump? And that's such an important one. And then I just love the fear, right? The fear conditioning, right? You want to know how to, I've been a teacher for 10 years. I'm going into my 11th year of teaching. It might be online, it might be in the classroom, who knows? And that's irrelevant right now. But you want to get over your fear of talking, speaking, etc. You have to put yourself out there, and that's fear conditioning, right?
Exactly. And that goes way, way back to something that Jake asked before, which was, how do you expand your network? And ultimately, it's like, get really freaking uncomfortable talking to new people, because that's the only way you're going to expand your network. You can't expand your network with the people you already know. You have to talk to new people inherently in order to expand your network. So that's one of those things where I see a lot of people getting held back by, and that's a great place to start.
I think that's,
hey,
go ahead.
Talk to new people. Yeah, just talk to new people.
But I think we could take that a step further, because you talked about you can't expand your network by talking to the same people. People get into this mindset of, like, keep doing the same thing. Why am I not getting where I want to be? It's like, you gotta, just like you said, you gotta get uncomfortable. You gotta go try new things to get new results. Like, you're not gonna get new results by doing the same thing. Like, if you keep taking a left-hand turn, you're just gonna go in circles. At some point, you gotta take a right-hand turn. I think that's super important for people to understand, because I don't think people really truly understand that they're doing it. And I think it's a subconscious activity, right? And sometimes we just need to like take a step back and be like, why is this not working? Like, what actions have I, kind of like you said, like, what actions was I taking when I did my best? Well, what actions was I taking, or were I taking, when I was doing my worst? Because if I can analyze what I was doing when I was bad, I can adjust that mindset or adjust those activities to excel myself to something I wasn't achieving and get to where I want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard one. The networking one's hard for folks that are working the 8 to 5. That's a tough one, but you see, you have the same people that have the same things that they do every single day. Like, they sit in their driveway drinking beer with the neighbors, or they go to the same bar on Friday nights for 20 years. It's tough, but breaking out and finding new people to network that are successful is extremely important. Jake, do you have any other questions as we're closing this one out with Matt?
I mean, Matt got into some deep stuff. I'm sitting here. I can't. I'm sure something's gonna come up after we close this thing out. But I think he did a great job here. I really think our listeners got a ton of value out of this. So
yeah, this is an awesome one, because we have not had fitness and fitness coaching in there, and it's just like any other business, right? This leadership matters. You have to give your employees some trust. You have to be kind and not nice. You need to be solutions based instead of problem based. And then when things just aren't going your way, go out into the forest of Australia. And if you get chased by some spiders, you're going to start selling so much better. Right, Matt? Yeah.
Amen, man.
Oh, we have to end with this before we go. Matt, what did you and I used to do at lacrosse camps to earn money?
All right. So Tolsey was the muffin man. I think you also string lacrosse sticks as well? You did
a little bit, but
both,
the money wasn't in the stringing.
Yeah.
It just had too much labor.
Exactly. You were trading time for money with that one. Whereas, getting a big tray of Costco muffins, it's like you could sell a package. You could be like, I'll give you a muffin and some gummy worms and give you a little deal. And then Matt was from New Jersey. Yeah. So I'm from New Jersey. So Tulsi, you can tell them what I did, but Lauren essentially assigned me to this job based off of where I was from.
Yeah. So Matt's from Jersey. And so he was the pizza man. And so what would you charge per pizza? Like $15?
Yeah. I would get the $5 Little Caesars pizzas. And then it was either $3 a slice or $10 for a pie. So $1 into two.
Yeah, it was awesome. And what made it work was the kids weren't allowed to leave the dorms. So we were the only option for food. And so I was selling muffins for $2 and he was selling pizza 300% markup, but it was all good. Those are the early days and the great days. And I was already working on my business at the time. I hired another camp counselor to actually run the Muffin Shack, and then I would take the profits. So that's awesome. And that's how I started one of my first companies with some of that money. So that's awesome.
Nice.
Thank you, Matt, for being on this interview and dropping some gold to our listeners. In order to grow the podcast, we need your help. Please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and tell a friend about every episode you find value in, and share the episode on your favorite social media platform. If you like the episode, please rate the episode and leave us an amazing review. You can find us at Against All Average on all your favorite social media platforms and at againstakllaverage.com. Another big shout out to Matt Walrath of Beyond Macros, and this episode's sponsor, Fame Pro Services. And with that, we thank you for listening to the Against All Average podcast. We'll see you next time.